Hello and welcome to the Point and Left podcast with your hosts,
Skyler
and Kaylynne.
Nice.
I tried to go under. That was fun.
Yeah, I was like, I keep forgetting that I have like 18,000 rings on my finger, so every time I like high five, there's like a moment of fear in everyone's eyes where they go, no, you have bullets attached to your fingers.
Yeah, you're going to give me a bunch of cuts from your rings, and then next time you'll just wear like a lemon ring, and it'll just like sting. That's your ultimate plan. I know it. I know what you're trying to do.
And that's girlhood.
That's girlhood in a nutshell. Anything exciting to discuss life-wise? Anything for the listeners? It's almost Christmas.
True.
It's almost New Year's.
Oh,
it's
too true.
The holiday season. At least when we're recording this, I actually don't know when this will come out. We've been pre-recording a lot of stuff, so.
Mm-hmm. We're influencers now.
Yeah, it's been an adventure.
Yeah, the next time you see me, I'll be a new person.
Yeah. Oh my god, I cut my hair.
Look at this. Look at this babe. I know you can't see it if you're only looking, well, not looking, but listening through Spotify, but she cut her hair. She looks like a baddie. And
it's like very short.
I cannot wait to shower her in daily compliments, as is my one wish.
I really like it. I'm very happy. It was something that I was contemplating for months, and then I finally just made the appointment, and I'm like, whatever, like, let's do it.
You look very rich.
Ooh, I love.
You look so expensive.
Yeah, it's a little like bob moment with my bangs. I'm very happy about it. So that's my life update. That literally happened yesterday, so this is like fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what you look like?
I'm scared.
You look like a nepotism baby.
Wow.
And I know you're gonna say that like that was the lame segue, which it was, but you do look really expensive, so I'm not lying.
Thank you. Oh my god, I got 2 people yesterday. So my hairdresser, so the photo, actually, speaking of nepotism babies, the photo that I showed her was a picture of Maya Hawke with her bangs, yeah. And when my hairdresser was like washing my hair, she's like, you know what? It's really funny that you like showed me that picture because you kind of look like Maya Hawke. And I was like, be still my heart. And then I went to the dentist later because I've had work off this whole week, so I'm just doing a ton of like housekeeping stuff, that I've like been waiting to do. I have an eye appointment tomorrow. I'm also going back to the dentist tomorrow. Oh my god, fun fact. Oh my god, I don't think I told you this. Okay, so the reason why I had to go to the dentist, well, one, it's been like a year since I've been to the dentist, so that was why. But also I think that my bottom gums, or not I think, because it has now been confirmed that my bottom gums are receding. Because I'm aggressive when I brush my teeth, so I was brushing them too hard, and it caused my bottom gums to recede.
Oh, the Harry Styles hairline principle.
Yeah, so I have to go to a specialist and potentially get my gums grafted, because they don't just grow back. Like, you have to get surgery.
You have to attach more gum.
Yeah, so that was fun. But on Thursday I'm going back to get like an actual cleaning. And I'm going to the optometrist tomorrow too, getting more contacts. But anyway, when I was at the dentist, before they told me that I would have to get my gums grafted, the like dental assistant was like, "Has anyone ever told you kind of look like Aubrey Plaza?" And I was like,
"You cannot say you just look like Maya Hawke and Aubrey Plaza. Do you know I like girls?"
I
Kaylynne.
know. I was like, no one has, but thank you.
And that
made
changes
the record
tonight.
state. I don't think I look like Aubrey Plaza at all. And he was like, maybe it's just the hair. And I was like, I just got my hair cut. Anyway, nepotism babies. Let's get into it.
See how influential they are to our day-to-day lives? They're so topical. So topical, in fact.
I got my hair cut based off of one. So, no, that's not true. It was my reference photo.
How long ago did that New York Times article come out?
Like less than a week.
Yeah, so
Very
we
fresh.
are hot off the trend.
Yeah.
So the New York Times just published basically like a big burn book of every nepotism baby that they could get their grimy little hands on. For the people that don't know what a nepotism baby is, figure it out. But essentially it's just like either it's a person, it's a term used to describe someone whose parent or parents or other family members are famous or successful in a certain area.
Yes. Yeah, because it can be like outside of the entertainment industry. Like I think you see nepotism babies literally like everywhere, where it's like if you have a parent who's successful in a certain field and then they have a kid, that kid ultimately has an advantage over other people because their parent can like get them a job at their company and stuff like that.
It's more fun to focus on nepotism when it's in the entertainment industry because it's way more fun to be like that actor you like or that director you love.
When it's way more public, and it's also a career path that is like extremely lucrative
and visible too. Like it's like everyone knows that like that government intern is there because daddy's money got him into that, you know, school, or like that doctor you go to has this job just because his mommy is in hospital management, and that generationally wealthy family son started a startup business. Like you don't see those as much, and they're not as fun versus like, hey, that actor you just saw on screen, know who her parents are?
Yeah
Fun, huh?
Yeah. And they try and hide it. But it cannot be hidden.
Not from the New York Times and not from us.
Do you kind of want to start us off, or?
Sure. Okay, so basically, the reason that this has become a little bit more of like a hot button topic as the months and years proceed is like, so there are very many cool and talented nepotism babies, or nepo-babies, as I'm going to keep calling them because it's shorter. But it's fun to call them out for their privilege, because those who get the most defensive and the most mad tend to be the ones with, like, less talent. Because, like, Jamie Lee Curtis has been very open about the fact that, like, her mother was a very famous actress, and, like, part of the reason that it was between Jamie Lee Curtis and another girl for the part in, it was Halloween. And it was like her mom was in Psycho. So she's like, I did work hard and I've worked hard since, but like, I'm not going to pretend like I didn't have that leg up. And so some people, they don't want to admit that they got any help because they get too defensive. They're like, no, this is all me. My very famous and very rich and very influential family members or family friends did not give me this job. I earned it. And for those people, it's way more fun to go on Twitter and be like, this you? And like show up their family tree.
Well, and it's like, of course it feels good to be like, no, I earned this. Like, I'm here because I worked really hard. And like, I was going to say no one's saying you didn't work hard, but a lot of people are saying you didn't work hard, actually. But like, no one is saying you're untalented for the most part. Like, I will be the first to admit, I think a lot of nepotism babies, honestly, like, are very talented. I enjoy watching them on the screen. You know, I think that they do wonderful jobs portraying their characters. I think a lot of them are very passionate. However, so many nepo babies who get defensive constantly say, well, I actually, I have to work twice as hard as anyone else because I have to prove myself more because I have famous parents. And while some of that is true, I can agree with the fact that maybe you do have to work twice as hard to prove yourself because, you know, obviously if people know that you have successful parents and link that to you getting that job, then like it may be a little harder to earn some people's respect versus if you didn't. However, you're missing the point. You're literally missing the fucking point. Like, if you did not have to work harder to get the job.
No, wrong.
Everyone says, like, the hardest part about the entertainment industry in general is getting your foot in the door. And I feel like what a lot of these nepotism babies don't understand is that they were born inside the room. Yeah. Like, babes, you're already there. Like, you didn't have to work as hard to get that position because you have all of these advantages that are already working in your favor, some of which are outside of the point of just like, oh, well, you have a famous dad, so this casting director wanted to put you in it because it would give you name because you have the same last name as them, and like that'll bring in an audience, and like that can be part of it, but like there's so many other factors with being a nepotism baby that I think give you an advantage compared to someone who didn't have that upbringing.
And like, I'll be the first to admit that like a lot of the push for like kind of exposing nepotism babies does come from jealousy, because of fucking course it does. Like, me personally, I'm jealous of everyone with money, of every person with good connections, and with people with like immaculate bone structure. So nepotism babies were like designed to be
like
my personal enemy. So like, yeah, you're telling me that someone can just get things that other people, maybe more talented people, can't get because they were born with more exposure? That's not fair. But with that comes like a little bit of reflection. Like, okay, I chose to go into Hollywood, right? The epitome of like, it's all about who you know. It was my decision to work in a hyper competitive industry. Like, do I really have the right to be pissed for people that are bound to exist? Nepotism babies, they're inevitable. Famous people will breed. You know, like, you can't stop them from doing that. You can't stop them from wanting the best for their very talented angel. And so, like, you know, and if I had rich parents, I'd be using them, frankly. So would anyone. Like, connections are connections, and life isn't fair. But with the reflection on my part, it would be nice for the majority of the hyper-defensive nepo babies to also have a bit of reflection on their part. To be like Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, like, I worked hard. I did. This is mine. I'm trying to chart my own course. I'm trying to forge my own destiny. However, I did get help. I'm very thankful. I want to give back. And for a lot of them, it's too much of a point of pride to even admit that they had any help because they're so hyper defensive and hyper vigilant of people who maybe say that they don't deserve what they have. And that's when I think there's a lot of strife when you have someone coming from a hyper place of privilege who's too stubborn to admit that they are that.
Exactly. I would also like to mention real quickly the title of the or not the title of the article, but the cover page of is it the New York Times or the New Yorker?
I thought it was the New York Times.
I think it's the
Quick.
New Yorker.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please.
Really quick. New York Magazine. Okay.
Okay.
So we were both wrong.
Oh, I love that we were both wrong.
Okay. I would very briefly like to mention that the cover of New York Magazine, if you haven't seen it, please look it up. It is kind of hilarious.
Graphic design is my passion.
Yeah. but on the cover, the like article title is "She Has Her Mother's Eyes and Agent," which is just so genius, hilarious, like perfection. 10 out of 10. No notes. So just very briefly wanted to mention that. Yeah, I guess let's dig right into it. I would also like to preface, I kind of said a little bit about this earlier, but like I think the reason why most people are so infuriated by nepotism babies is because of like the sheer amount of nepotism babies that have kind of taken over Hollywood, especially. I feel like almost every single program, like every single movie, every single TV show, it is hard to find one that doesn't have at least one nepo baby in it.
Yeah.
Like it's difficult. It's difficult. Like I'm really trying to think of someone who like isn't a nepo baby. Actually, the other day I looked up Victoria Pedretti from You. She's not a nepo baby. Yeah.
Joe Locke isn't. Heartstopper for the third episode in a row, baby. Heartstopper was this first ever audition that he ever did.
You're kidding. King.
But they are there. But that's the problem is like, and also why people are very critical over nepotism babies is like you have all these rich people who only breed with each other because ew, poverty. And so you have this like whole separate class of mommy and daddy's angels that are flooding the market. And when you have people who could genuinely be like the voice of their generation, like this voice of an angel, the best writer, the best composer, you will never know.
No.
Because the market is just so flooded with people who maybe don't have that same passion that those other people have. The like what you were saying earlier, that they are trying to say that they work twice as hard, nepo babies, wrong. The people that genuinely have a drive to want to make it as a nobody in this industry, they have to always be at the top of their game to even get like a chance to wedge their foot in the door.
And oftentimes they never get that chance.
But you can taste that passion when they do finally succeed because they've been working so hard. But when you have a lot of these nepo babies, they have such a good safety net that passion just isn't there because they're like, it's okay, I'm too big to fail, I'm too rich to fail, mommy and daddy can bail me out. So they can be a fine actor, but it won't be like the drive that forces them to be alive every day because they don't have the pressure of if they fail, they're fucked.
Well, and there's so much entitlement that comes. Also, real quick, I'm so sorry if you can hear in the background someone's playing their TV very loud. But so just tune that out, it's fine. So many of these nepotism babies are so entitled, and honestly I do think part of it is just like inevitable. Like when you are that sheltered and when you are constantly in a place of like never being told no, it's kind of inevitable that you are going to be a little entitled. And I think that's why so many of them get so defensive, because in their head they truly do not understand how having like famous parents has given them an advantage. Because they're like, well, no, like I still have to audition. Like it's not like someone is just like giving me a job. Like I still have to audition for the job. And it's like, okay, like you and everyone else, like
audition
like,
under
that's
a
not special.
Audition under a pseudonym if you're that sure of your own self, instead of just being like, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Steven Spielberg."
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have the part. God, I'm so good.
Yeah, and it's like I will say I do think a lot of casting directors. I did read the Vulture article about nepotism babies that came out recently, and they interviewed a lot of people in the industry, and they were talking to this one casting director who basically said, they were like, yeah, like I see nepotism babies all the time, and like frankly if I see them and there's no talent, like that's kind of the end of the road for them. Like I'm just like, no, you know, like they weren't right for this part, you know, and move on, even if they were like horrific. But like if they're a nepotism baby and they have talent, then it's like,
what's stopping them?
Literally, because it's like, okay, well, like, if I can get them to be the lead in the movie, then, like, maybe their super rich, or super, well, I mean, yeah, but, like, also super famous parent will, like, come to the premiere, and maybe they'll help out with, like, some of the publicity, and, like, especially, again, if they have that last name, like Maya Hawke, for example. If you have that last name as Ethan Hawke, like people are going to be like, oh my God, are they related? Like that's so crazy. Or if you look exactly like Uma Thurman, then like people are going to be kind of intrigued, you know? Mm-hmm. But going off what you were saying earlier, there's this Angelina Jolie quote that just like, I was going to say haunts me, but like it haunts me in a good way. Like it just like changed my world, I feel like. And I was gonna wait till the end to say this, but I think this is a good point. So she this is a speech, or part of a speech that she gave at the 2013 Governor Awards, and she says, oh, not now, sorry, I just got a notification on my laptop. Okay. She says, I've never understood why some people are lucky enough to be born with the chance that I had, to have this path in life, and why across the world there's a woman just like me with the same abilities and the same desires, the same work ethic and love for her family, who would most likely make better films and better speeches, only she sits in a refugee camp and she has no voice. She worries about what her children will eat, how to keep them safe, and if they'll ever be allowed to return home. I don't know why this is my life and that's hers. I don't understand that, but I will do as my mother asked, and I will do the best I can with this life to be of use. Yeah.
Chills. Wow.
So good. And I feel like that's such a point that so many people, like especially nepo babies, completely disregard, is that like they would not be where they are without the amount of privilege that they have. Mm-hmm. And that goes for so many things. Like I'll just get into it. Yeah, because I think there are a lot of advantages to being a nepo baby that like some people may not even like think about right away, because I think you probably think you're like, oh, like, you know, their parent probably called up someone and like got them the part.
Yeah, cast my daughter or else you'll never work in Hollywood again.
Yeah, and I think people kind of like think that's the end of it, but like there are so many other layers of advantage that comes with being a nepo baby. And first of all, obviously wealth is like number one. That's a huge advantage for a lot of people. And with that, having a larger freedom of to pursue whatever you choose. And I'll be frank, like I come from an upper middle class family. Like I know that there is a high probability that I would have chosen a more stable career path, and I would not be in the position that I am without that support of my family and without the knowledge of knowing that like my family isn't relying on my income.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is in that position. There are so many people who have had to work since they legally could, and that money goes to their family. They don't get to keep that, you know? And there are so many people who can't even afford to move out of their hometown or their home state and to even have that chance and have that opportunity. And it doesn't mean that they're less creative. It doesn't mean that they're less intelligent. It doesn't mean that they're less capable. It simply means that they don't have the means to be able to take that risk. So that's like obviously privilege number one.
Right.
And then two, when you are a nepo baby, and this is kind of any career path where nepo babies thrive, your education starts from the moment you're born. Like, you have so many advantages because you're growing up surrounded by all of these successful and talented actors, writers, producers, whoever. So you're literally forming those relationships as a child. For example, like Maude Apatow, you know, obviously her father, Judd Apatow, and her mother, Leslie Mann, like, are both very successful in different ways. And like, because Judd Apatow is on like the writing producing side of things, like I'm sure Maude had many connections growing up. I'm sure they had like family dinners at their house where like a family friend would come over and that family friend was also like some other famous actor, or that family friend was this really amazing acting coach, or that family friend was like another writer or something. So it's like you already have that like rapport going from such a young age. And then not only that, but like if your parent is successful in that field, like they're probably talking about it a lot. They're probably very passionate about it. They're probably telling you what they're working on. And you get all of that insider knowledge, and you're starting to learn that like insider language.
For free.
Yes, for free, and from such a young age that like, of course you have an advantage over people who didn't grow up in that environment. Like, for example, me, so much of the stuff that I learned in college, I'm sure like Maude Apatow would go to that class and be like, duh, like why does everyone not know this? Like, like that would be such a base level class for her. But when I took it, I was like, oh my God, like I had to go through all this terminology and stuff that I would have never known had I not like taken a class on it. So, and not only that, but you're also learning from your parents who, I mean, unless they are also nepo babies, like they have successfully navigated this industry already. So they already know the do's and don'ts and all of that. So you're getting this firsthand knowledge that most other people don't have. So that's another huge advantage. And not only that, but you have quite literally unlimited resources. Your parent will tell their agent or their manager or whoever, they're like, hey, like, you know, my daughter is interested in modeling, like, take a look at her pictures, like put her in contact with like the best modeling agency or whatever. And like, obviously if they're at a certain level of status, with their own fame, like, there are really good agencies and there are really good management companies that have all of these connections and have all of these contacts. And so many times they'll just be like, oh yeah, like my daughter showed some interest in acting, like, you know, what's some advice, like what are some classes she can take, well, you know, whatever. And then they'll have access to these acting classes that like most other people would kill to be in.
Right.
And they're just kind of like giving it because it's like, oh, like this is, I do like Maude Apatow, I will say. But it's like, oh, that's Judd Apatow's daughter. Like, you know, take a look at her.
Yeah, Apatow's not like a very normal last name. It's very easy. Again, like, oh yeah, my name is fucking Sadie fucking, oh my God.
Jones.
No, yeah. I almost forgot. Yeah, my name is Sadie Tarantino.
Yeah.
You're like, oh really? Is your mom the famous one?
Yeah. Like,
no.
Like, people know. So yeah, you're like, hey, my daughter's interested in modeling. Like, will you put her in contact with like a modeling agency, you know? So then she gets a meeting with like this, I don't know, like the CEO of like Ford Models or something like that. Or better yet, maybe they put her in contact with Vogue directly, because that happens. And again, with like all the family friends and stuff, like, if your parent is a writer, like they'll just write you into movies.
Yeah.
If they have a family friend who's a writer, they'll just write you into stuff. Or even if they're not writing you into things, if there is a role that is available, and I think this happens way more than people actually know, because this is kind of my fourth layer of privilege, is everyone knows that the entertainment industry is like all about connections. It really is. It's about who you know, what you know, and whether you have good relationships with people. And although from an outside perspective, like it really might not seem like it, but on the inside, so many people are like, the industry is so small. Like you will work with someone, 1 year and then 10 years later you bump into them again and they're at a completely different level and you're like, oh my God, like, how have you been? Whatever. And like, so the industry is relatively small and you end up working with a lot of the same people. And because of that, most people want to work with people that they like. They want to work with people who they work well with. They want to work with people who typically end up being your friends. They typically end up being, friends with these people. So it's like, I don't know, if you have a friend who is writing a movie and there's a spot for like an 8-year-old little girl and, whoever is, or I don't know, like Ethan Hawke is already starring in it. And they're like, oh, well, why don't just have his daughter do it?
She's already going to be on set anyway to
Yeah. And they already have that chemistry. Like, it's just easier. It's just easier that way. And, obviously it's not done out of malice of any sort. Most of the time, I think a lot of times when situations like that happen, it's literally just,
convenience.
Yeah. It's because it's easier. It's because you already know that they work well together.
You don't have to go through the whole process of, getting 8-year-old self-tapes, being like, hi, my name is so-and-so, and my favorite subject is school, I love to draw. And, you have to, watch 50 of those, narrow it down, callbacks, auditions, they get the part, chemistry read. You don't have to do that if you're already doing that with 50 other actual adults.
Yeah, exactly. So those are kind of the different layers that I came up with, and obviously we've talked about this already a little bit, but there is so much talent out there, and there are so many people who are struggling to make it in the industry, and it can really just be very disheartening to see role after role or position after position, whatever area you're in, be given to these people who have had all of these advantages since they're born. And it's maybe they are talented, but that doesn't mean that someone else isn't just as or more talented, And then
those same people will then go on Twitter and be like, no, you guys are wrong. I don't have any privileges. And that is exactly how you get millions of people to be so irritating at you specifically, to be like, how dare you? How dare you? And I know with all this being said, yes to all, right?
Yes,
But a small part of me still kind of feels bad for nepo babies. Not too bad, because clearly they'll be fine. They don't need my pity. They will live happy, successful, remembered, long lives. They'll be fine. But just like me, not being famous at all, I hate being compared to my family. My mom's coworkers or friends will be like, oh my God, you look just like your mom. I bet you. I'm gonna stop you right there. Wrong. Don't expect us to act any sort of same. And I imagining that on a global level, especially if your parents have left you an incredible legacy, it can feel incredibly large shoes to fill, and the pressure to fill them and fill them well is probably daunting. The Aquarius urge to be an individual. And and God forbid if that famous parent is so beloved. I said this earlier, but there's this weird expectation that Lily Rose Depp is supposed to act like this walking, talking Wednesday Addams because her father is Johnny Depp, and just you're telling me Johnny Depp has a hot daughter? People just have these expectations of her, and she's just kind of expected to deliver with her 5'2" self, which I just learned that she was 5'2". The things that we learn.
Is there a band here?
What is happening? That's a stereo.
Sorry, y'all. Yeah, Lily Rose Depp is literally 5'2", and a runway model. So, and her, I will say, she is
the face of
She is literally the face of why people fucking hate nepo babies, is because in every interview that they ever try and even comment on the fact that maybe she had some privilege to get to where she is, she claps back, and not in a good way. She's just no, I can't believe people would say that. I've worked hard, blah, blah. It's
it's because I'm a woman, isn't it?
Babes, you're 5'2".
No, Lily Rose, no.
And you're walking a runway. Let's think about this a little bit. And frankly, if these people would just fucking admit that, yes, I had so much privilege, and I am so lucky that I was born into a family and into a situation where like this was a viable career option for me, and that I was able to learn from such wonderful people growing up, and I'm so happy to be in the position that I am in, and I am so like grateful for everything that like my family has given me. Like if you're just fucking transparent about it,
it's not that hard.
People, like, some people still might just not like you, and that's fine. That's inevitable. But you're not going to get this, like, massive backlash of everyone being like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it just seems so, like, ignorant. It's just so ignorant when you are walking around and you're like, oh, my daddy is Johnny Depp. No, that doesn't affect where I'm at all. Or, for example, we were talking about this a little earlier, Brooklyn Beckham. You said you don't know that much about Brooklyn Beckham.
I do not.
I know a little bit, but not that much. He recently got married, I believe, to some
other supermodel, probably.
Yeah, I think she was like the heir to something. I don't know. Also very, very wealthy. Yeah, they recently got married. But he is a kind of the poster child of like the aimless nepo-baby who is somehow still successful. Like, he tried to be a soccer player, that didn't really work out. He tried to model like his mom, that didn't really work out. Now he's doing some like culinary thing, which like I don't know how it's working out, but I've honestly haven't even watched any of his like videos or anything, but in the article that I read, they were like, yeah, he's like not even that good. Like, he's not
that's
like
what I
that
was
good of a
saying
chef.
about like when you're so big to fail, and like good for him for having like the freedom to just like explore your own life.
Sounds awesome.
But that's what happens when you don't get famous because you're passionate about something. You're just desperately like grasping at straws, trying to cling on to something that will make you feel happy because like you haven't gotten to the place where you have finally found your own identity that you can be passionate about because things were just given to you. And like, again, that's like this weird form of pity, honestly. Like, you keep mentioning Maude Apatow. People are like, ever since she was, got on Euphoria, people are like, I bet she's also, because her character in Euphoria is also a writer, they're like, I bet she's a really talented writer like her father. And, I bet she's like this amazing actress like her mother. And I'm like, you don't know that. Like, and I even saw some tweets where it's like, I can't wait for Blue Ivy to drop her like first album, and I'm like, you don't know that Beyonce's daughter wants to be a singer. Like, talent doesn't always genetically pass on to the next generation. First of all, it's weird to assume that it will, that like this just like God-given talent will flow through the generations, and also like completely disregarding want, frankly.
Well, and you're totally right. Like, I to a certain extent, like I do feel kind of bad because I'm sure that it is difficult, especially like, oh my god, I feel so bad for Blue Ivy, especially like when she was does anyone remember when I mean, like, she still is a child, but like when she was like an infant, not quite an infant, but like very, very young,
toddler,
and everyone was like making fun of her because she looks more like Jay-Z than she does Beyonce, and they were like, oh, that would suck to have that Jeanette. Like, oh my god, that's a child, and the internet is kind of forever, and you think that in the future she's not gonna look that up and feel like shit about herself because you're like, oh, that sucks that she doesn't look exactly like Beyonce.
Yeah, the memes about Northwest right now, just like every time that Northwest will like interrupt Kim Kardashian's live stream and be like, oh, there's Kanye's crazy, like she inherited Kanye, like, don't. Just
so, coming from, I've told you I'm gonna bring it up in every fucking episode, coming from a child of a mentally,
you can just say ill.
Yeah, of a very mentally ill parent. I am so sensitive to the fact that like genetically I am more predisposed to schizophrenia, and I won't know if I have it or not until I'm of a certain age. But anytime that someone even says like, oh my god, you're acting crazy, no, because I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? Because I'm so sensitive about that, and I can't even imagine being in that position, especially as young as she is, and people being so fucking ignorant to the fact that like, I mean, I have many thoughts on Kanye. I think it's completely irresponsible what he's doing, considering he has every single like resource available to him to get the help that he needs.
Clearly, yeah.
And so I have many
it's just
thoughts on that
at this point. Yeah,
I have many thoughts on that, but it is like actually infuriating and frankly disgusting that so many people just like, I don't know, don't really think about like the impact like what North is going through is fucking traumatic.
Awful.
Like,
Awful.
that is fucking traumatic, especially on a global scale. Oh my God, when I was in high school, I was terrified. I was terrified that my classmates were going to find out that my mom was schizophrenic. And, like, I don't really know why, but there was just so much shame that came with it. So I can't even imagine being that young and having the entire world, like, telling you how insane your father is and, like, all of the stuff that he's doing and seeing it because it's on the news and stuff.
And, like, trying to diagnose you with that. Don't do that. Yeah, so to circle back to what you were originally saying, like, I do feel a certain amount of sympathy and, like, yeah, that sucks to be compared to your parents and especially in a way where it's like, if you're not as successful or more successful than them, then people will come at you for that too. You're destroying their legacy.
Yeah, so it's like there's literally no winning. It's like, okay, if I'm successful, then you're gonna hate on me because my parents handed this to me. But if I'm not successful, then you're gonna make fun of me because I'm not doing as well as my parents.
Yeah. Like, famous or not, people are not their parents. Like, there will be similarities, obviously. Like, even if nannies are involved, these people still did raise them. But their personalities, their talents, their vibes, their interests, they're not going to be exactly ripped from their parents because neither are ours. Like,
yeah.
And I want to bring up, too, like, a big example of nepotism babies that people kind of look at fondly on, or the Irwins, Steve Irwin's two children. Like, okay, the way that people talk about them is so fucking weird. Like, I get it. I'm also super sad about Steve Irwin's tragic passing. He was a wonderful man. He seemed like a wonderful father, and it's really sad, and it shocked a lot of people, so I get it. But Rob Irwin is not his dad, and neither is Bindi. Like, they were trying to push Bindi the Jungle Girl since, like, we were in elementary school. I remember that. And it really is just, like, a really huge, great coincidence that both of his kids are just as enthusiastic about conservation and nature and crocodile shit. Because I think if either one of them was like, I want to go into finance, like, they would be shunned. And it's like, the lens they operate under is also so tightly controlled because they must maintain this perfect, wholesome brand because everything they do is one giant tribute to their very beloved dead father. Like, Rob will post anything on, like, his TikTok or his Instagram, be like, look, a lizard! And all the comments will be like, your father is dead, and I miss him. He would be so proud of you, which I'm sure they appreciate, but after a while, that's gotta be fucking irritating. Like, yeah. Rob wasn't even that old when Steve Irwin passed away, so I'm sure he's like, he can't do anything without this giant ghost of his father, like, leering over him at any point. He can't have his own identity because he has this, like, insurmountable shoes to fill with Steve Irwin dying. Like, if I ever get the chance to meet Rob Irwin, I want to, like, at, like, an Australian Walmart, I just want to be like, don't you ever just want to go apeshit? Yeah. Like, did you ever want to be, like, a painter? Like, did you ever just want to take an office job? Like, don't you just want to scream? And, like, for nepo-babies, okay, you're born. You have no choice, right? I would not have chosen it, but you're born, right? And both of your parents are famous or rich. You really have three options. Option one, use the cards that God gave you, right? Your parents are famous and rich and influential. Use them. Two, reject it all and go to a completely different industry. Or three, just coast off of your fame and money and just not do anything substantial with your life. Like, those are the only really three options that you have. And out of all the options, I think three is the least likable. Like, yeah, it's annoying to see that nepo-babies are in another Netflix original or, like, you know, someone else just got cast on Broadway without really a lot of tons of talent. But I'd rather see someone with famous parents go out and try to do something with themselves than just sit back and be like, yep, that is my last name. I'm going to, like, coast on a Joe Rogan podcast and, you know, take pictures on Instagram and just be famous and then die. Like, I prefer when people actually try to prove themselves in any sort of way, whether they fail or not, than people that are just, like, too rich to try to fail. And I think, honestly, that Michael Jackson's kids are, like, almost a perfect example of those three options that you can get into. I was also into Michael Jackson faves when I was younger. This sucks. So his three kids are Prince, Paris, and I think Biggie is his name. It's B-I-G-I. I don't know how to pronounce it. He changed his name. BG. Actually, BG is funnier. I'm going to say BG. So Prince is oldest. He got a degree in business administration from Loyola Marymount University, has a YouTube channel dedicated to motorcycles and reviewing movies. He co-founded a charity, and he partnered with another charity in 2020. So that's one way. Yeah. To just be like, I'm good. Like, I'm Michael Jackson's first kid. I don't need to do music. I'm just kind of gonna reject all that, fuck off and do my own thing. I love motorcycles and let me review a movie and give back with my money. Like, that's one way, a really popular way. Biggie. So he's very famous because he loves privacy, and he has rejected all aspects of fame. He lives in like self-given isolation, seclusion from all social media. Like no one knows anything about him on purpose. Like even Paris posted a photo of like his 18th birthday, and he's like, he likes his privacy. That's all I'm gonna say. So he kind of is an amalgam of like rejected all and also coast off of fame, because he could be doing something great with his life, we just don't know. But he's not using his name to get what he wants in life, or he's just sitting at home chilling, playing Fortnite. Who knows? Paris Jackson is closer to the very stereotypical like nepo baby. She's a musician. She's the current face of KVD Beauty, and she does acting here and there. Like she was on like a season of American Horror Story and Sex Appeal. So she is doing the stereotypical thing where it's like, my daddy's Michael Jackson, I'm a very beautiful woman, so I have a beauty campaign, I'm the face of a beauty campaign, I act, I do music also. But like the music that she does is like folk indie, so that's not like, she's not trying to be like the princess of pop, like she's not trying to do like the Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson thing. She's more of an influencer, and you kind of get the idea and the impression that just kind of does her own thing. She's never denied anything like that, the Jackson family has helped her out. She's never denied that. She brings up her dad all the time. So like she's never like, no, this was me, this was Paris Jackson, all on herself. Like she is very transparent about where she comes from, and yeah, she just kind of is using her privilege to just float on and just enjoy her life. So yeah, those are kind of like the three options that you can get and kind of get by with popular public opinion if you're a nepo baby. And you could do those things, or you could just go full on like stubborn jackass and just be like, nuh-uh, I'm talented, mommy said so.
Oh god. Do you have much else? Or?
No, my closing thing is just like, for nepotism babies in the court of public opinion, you're probably always going to be a little unpopular, again, because of the mass jealousy. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
But acknowledging your privilege is better than denying it and pretending that hard work gets you everything. But there is this hope that when you do get famous enough, that you can just give back to lesser known people so that others do get a chance. Like, I know that that's always something people say, but it's never a realistic option to be like, why would I want people to take opportunities away from me? Like, it's not, I can see people like, yeah, we should do that. Anyway, I'm not going to. But, Emma Watson,
yeah,
she's dedicated her life to, like, philanthropic charities and being a voice for he, for she, and is directing now, and she's just kind of, like, using her voice to amplify other voices. Lizzo's doing that with, like, her acceptance speech that she got. I think it was... I don't know what the award was for. I don't want to butcher it, but she recently got an award, and she used all of her speech time to like amplify voices of like different charities and different like women activists. So there are ways that you can realize the privilege that you've been getting and pass it forward, I think, instead of just insisting that your legacy didn't give you anything. Because again, as we've established, you can have plenty of struggles. No one is denying your struggles. I'm sure you have plenty. Like if my dad was like Gandhi, whatever, who cares? I'm sticking with Gandhi. Or if my dad was like the world's most beloved man, my dad was Bob Ross, Steve Irwin, fucking Robin Williams, I would feel an intense pressure to live up to that incredible legacy. And so yeah, and also it can be defensive to just insinuate that, everything that you've been given, someone gave to you. I think if I came to the realization that the only reason I have anything is because someone else gave it to me, I think I'd spiral into like, what do I even bring to this world?
That's the thing is I feel like such a big reason why so many of these nepo babies deny their privilege is for the reason we were saying earlier, is that like it feels bad. Like
doesn't feel great.
It feels kind of shitty to be like, oh, so I didn't really earn any of this, like, fair and square. And yeah, I think you're exactly right. Like, I don't think this will be the end of nepo babies by any means. Like, nepo babies have literally been around. I mean, what is a king if not a nepo baby? In the article,
what is Jesus Christ?
Literally, I was about to say, I'm like, in the article, they literally called Jesus a nepo baby, which was so funny. But like, I think the best thing you can do is just like try and be as humble as you can, and try and realize everything that is happening outside of you, and then acknowledge your privilege. Like, I think that's the most annoying thing, and that comes with obviously like any type of privilege. Like, nothing is more annoying than a man who is like, actually, men have it harder nowadays.
You could have stopped after nothing is more annoying than a man, but I do agree.
like if you are just self-aware enough and have enough introspection to understand that, like, yes, I do have privileges. Yes, a lot of the reason why I am where I am today is because of the privileges that I was born with. And it sucks that other people do not have those same opportunities, and I feel for them. However, again, because I'm in the position that I'm in, I'm going to do everything that I can with my, power or whatever to help others and to give back and to make use of myself. Like, literally what Angelina Jolie said. I think she's such a good example of, I think she's actually technically a nepo-baby. I think like her dad did something.
Honestly, that article was doing some sort of reach. They were just like, Phoebe Bridgers is a nepotism baby because her like dad was a set like techie. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how much pull techies have. So I'm sure like everyone is 10 degrees away from some sort of nepotism.
Yeah. But like that was like such an amazing speech. And she even said earlier in the speech, she was like, I didn't realize how sheltered I was until I like left my bubble. And then when I left my bubble, it was such a moment of like humbling, where I was like, oh, like there is so much more outside of me. And then she dedicated a lot of her life to philanthropy. And I don't think like philanthropy is necessarily like the only, like, you don't need to go and start a charity. But do something with yourself.
Host acting classes.
Yeah, host a podcast. The most philanthropic thing you can do.
Forcing my opinion on all my friends and loved ones. I can think of no better charitable work. You're welcome. You're welcome.
And
truly.
You're welcome. No, but yeah. Everything you said and more.
Aw, I do, yeah. Are you saying I'm smart?
Yeah.
Oh my god. She's smart. Sexy, I'm smart. Together, we are the full package.
We're unstoppable.
Oh, nepotism. Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully, my kin will just be like, everything I have, my mother gave me. Or, you know what? Better advice is if you're going to breed, let them squirm. Like, if you're a famous actress and you just decided to procreate and breed with, like, a famous football player and out pops this, like, cherub of an angel, you could just be like, you can fend for yourself, I think. And they're like, Mommy, I want to be an actor. You're like, all right. Figure it out.
I do think so many, and this
fake
obviously
name time
goes. Yeah, I'm like, this obviously like expands beyond just nepotism babies, but so often I think a lot of parents really, really shelter their kids more than is necessary, and it's like sometimes you just gotta push them out of the nest, or like, because if you have a child coming for you month to month, being like, hey, can you Venmo me $1,000 so I can pay my rent? And then you're like, what happened to that job that you had? And they're like, oh, I didn't like it, so I quit. Maybe there's an issue, like maybe there's an issue. You didn't just
describe nepotism babies, you described people I know.
Oh, I know.
That's why I said it. And honestly, it can get irritating if you're a nepotism baby to always feel like you have this penance walk. Yeah. You can't say anything without being like, I know I'm privileged, I get it. Here's the movie I made, and then like you always have to have this like push the boulder up the hill of like you have to preface everything you say in every movie you make with like, I get it, I'm privileged. That can feel tedious. Wipe your tears with your money. Like I get that it can be annoying and it can feel like, tedious, but like, okay, you're rich still and famous still, so what? Like, you have to do a little bit of work.
It's like, I feel kind of bad, but it only goes to a certain extent, because it's like at the end of the day, you're you're in your $10 million home in the Hollywood Hills.
You're in your millionaire era.
Yeah, like I don't feel that bad, you know? Like it's like, oh, you know, it sucks being compared to your parents and it sucks being in the public eye and all of that, but it's like at the end of the day, you like you're set. Like you're set for life, you know? And it's like you're not going to have to really struggle in that aspect.
Frankly, honestly, to close out, if both of my parents were like super rich and really famous, you would never see me again. I would change my name and I would take a lump sum of money and I would go off the grid and I would probably just like have the same attitude of like half the LA transplants of just being like, who needs like things? Like today we will paint and I will make a vase in the shape of my father's heart and you know, we will heal the world through love and then fuck on a beach. That's what I would do because then I could afford to be that delusional.
I was gonna say, I'm like, honestly, I think if I was a nepotism baby, I would milk that shit. I would
Guess
be
who
like,
my daddy is?
Like, I don't know, like, you know, I already have a passion for the entertainment industry. Like, I already want to go. I already want to be, like, a part of that. So it's like, I mean, if my parents could help me out, like, that'd be cool.
I just realized something I didn't even consider until just now. Some nepotism babies work against you. Like that woman on Twitter who's like, Trump is her uncle. So, like, or like, the Caroline Conway's daughter.
Yeah.
You could use your nepotism privileges for good. Just be like, fuck my mom. My mom's a dumbass and a piece of shit. And I don't agree with anything she does. And, like, actively you use your nepotism status to try to actively undo the legacy of your bad parent who's, like, destroying politics. A
philanthropic endeavor.
Indeed. You don't have to start your own charity. That is charity.
Yeah, amazing.
What a discovery.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's it from me.
That's it from me, love. It's so dark in here.
It is. It's getting quite dark. We're recording it a little later than we usually do.
This is
but
Christmas.
We're trying to get this episode out to you guys. So, you know, some sacrifices had to be made.
I get it. We're privileged because we get to film in an apartment with walls so thin that the agonizing cries of my elderly neighbors will be heard on the microphones, and the people below me really want to start a jazz band by blasting the music through the walls, like that one scene in SpongeBob with the jellyfish party.
Yeah.
And that's my cross to bear. Sorry. And that's my charity.
Thank you for listening. And we will see you next week.
I love you.
Nope.
ASMR, Kaylynne loves you.
Nope. I do love you. And bye.
Bye.
Bye.